Everyone treats summer like it owes you happiness. Long days, pool parties, your best life on a loop. So what does it mean when you feel worse? The summer blues are real. It's why summer is one of the busiest stretches of the year for people starting therapy. Therapy is not only for when you're in crisis. Growth therapy is for all the moments when you decide you want more. More support, more clarity, more tools. Mental health isn't a destination you reach. It's something you build, and Grow makes that easier. Grow connects you with thousands of high-quality licensed therapists across the U.S., offering both virtual and in-person sessions, nights and weekends. You can search by what matters, like insurance, specialty, identity, or availability, and get started in as little as 2 days. There are no subscriptions, no long-term commitments. You just pay per session. Grow helps you find therapy on your time. The therapist you want takes your insurance on Grow. Grow accepts over 125 insurance plans. Sessions average $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0 depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/booknow today to get started. That's growtherapy.com/booknow. growtherapy.com/booknow. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan.
Tired of your car insurance rate going up, even with a clean driving record? You're not alone. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today. That's JERRY.ai/LIBSYN.
If you've ever been told everything looks normal, but still don't feel yourself, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Cornerstone Integrative Healing Podcast, where we're changing the face of healthcare so you can understand your body and take your health back. Because the truth is, most people are left managing symptoms without ever being told why their body is struggling in the first place.
Here, we take a root cause, whole body approach, connecting your physical, emotional, and spiritual health so you can finally start moving forward. And most importantly, we point you to the one and only true healer, Jesus. Hello, I'm Kari, Coody, your co-host. I'm a pharmacist turned integrative health practitioner, and after 20 years in the traditional healthcare system, I saw firsthand just how many people were left without real answers, and I knew there had to be a better way.
Oh, hey, I'm Jenn, Patriarca. God gave me a desire to help others through natural healing many years ago. And after more than 20 years in functional nutrition, he brought Kari and I together for this mission. A mission to help you understand your body, trust what it's telling you, and give you the tools and confidence to take your health back.
Through these conversations, you can expect simple, straightforward guidance on real health topics, along with practical steps that support your body, your mind, and your faith. Because healing isn't just physical, and it doesn't have to feel so overwhelming. We're really glad that you're here, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes every Monday.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Jenn and Kari here. Excited to be with you again. Today, we are talking about minerals, probably one of our favorite subjects. While, I think minerals aren't talked about as much as maybe vitamins are, they're probably just as important, if not more important in some ways, to the foundation of our health. And so, because they really are the spark plugs for most of the enzymatic reactions in the body, which is how we function. We function really on enzyme reactions. They really allow every system in the body to work the way they were designed to. And some of our macro minerals that we'll talk about here in a bit are something that we recommend very often. Actually to 99.9% of the people that we see, because, it's super important for every function, and because we're using them very quickly, which we're going to get into a little bit, because people are like, okay, well, why are minerals important? And, why are we using them so quickly? How do we replace them? especially with, just modern farming and modern diets, the SAD diet, which we call the standard American diet, our intake of minerals just isn't as high as probably what it was, 100 years ago, even 50 years ago. So yeah, I think we get the question a lot, like, why do we always talk about minerals? Like, is everyone really deficient? Yes, yes, and yes.
Are you tired of hearing us talk about it?
Yes.
But really, like, our whole goal with this podcast is to help you think differently about your health, help you to get to the root cause of what's going on, and to help your body heal. And so when we found ourselves, we keep asking the question, why? Why is this happening? Why is, the body responding this way? Most roads lead back to minerals. Am I wrong, Jen?
No.
I mean,
No. No, and it sounds like minerals are the answer to everything, and they're not, but they are probably the most overlooked
yeah,
reason probably why people can't heal, and honestly, probably understudied. Like, most of the nutrients as vitamins are studied, but I don't think, minerals are studies as much. And so we're just gonna break down macrominerals, micronutrients, how we lose them, how we replace them, um, you know, and but I think again, back to we hear endlessly about vitamin D, right? Which is
yeah,
important. And B vitamins and fish oil, which are all super important. Like, those are definitely something, especially B vitamins and fish oil and vitamin C probably need to be supplemented by most people because we just don't get them in the diet.
yeah,
Um, but, we just kind of wanted to highlight because we feel like minerals don't get the attention maybe
mhm,
that vitamins often do. And they really need each other to work properly.
yeah,
Um, Without the minerals, the nutrients don't work. And there's
yeah,
always usually a corresponding mineral to a vitamin. Like, vitamin E, you absolutely need manganese and copper, which is in vitamin C, actually. Sometimes you'll
mhm.
find them inherently in the whole food.
Yeah.
Um, you
Which is
know,
why that's the best form, right? We'll talk about that
yeah,
for sure. And
yeah,
that's a good point. It's like I think we do you hear more about different vitamins or different minerals, but they all work together. Like that, and it could actually be to your detriment to just take one. And it
yeah,
just depends, right? Everybody's so different, but that's one thing to keep in mind. It's definitely like a whole symphony and they all work together, and that's why the HCMA is so helpful because it does help you see a larger picture of how your body is responding to stress and where your minerals are so that then we can give you a plan that's going to give you more of what you need and not add in what you don't need, you know? So they definitely work together, but just to give you a breakdown, you heard us kind of mention micro and macro minerals. Macro minerals are just the minerals that are needed in your body in larger amounts. These are things like calcium and sodium and magnesium and potassium. And there are a few others, but those are kind of the main ones for sure. And then there's micro minerals. These would be things more like copper and zinc and iodine and selenium. Those are just a few to mention. But there's lots of minerals, but they all work together. However, the macro minerals are usually what gets depleted first, and then it starts affecting the micro minerals. Um, so they all play their own role, right? Supporting role or main role or whatever it might be. And these are things that are key in hydration and muscle and nerve function, bone health and energy production, like things that we might not think about. When you think about heart issues, do you automatically think about minerals? I do. Right? You do, Jen,
yes.
probably, I mean, unless it's a structural issue, of course, but, these are really so important to our overall health, not just if we feel fatigued, but if we're having, um, more complex issues going on, it can definitely point to minerals at sometimes.
Yeah, and I don't think it's something that's looked at or tested,
Right.
right, in mainstream. They're not, for diabetes, like, they don't know that chromium's pretty much, has been, farmed out of the soil. Like, we just don't get that glucose tolerance, called the elemental chromium is glucose tolerance factor, or molybdenum. That's just those aren't even tested, thought about. Vanadium,
Right.
that's another big one for blood sugar and other, these are, and all of these micro trace minerals that I'm talking about now, like, of course, we know iodine is great for the thyroid and it activates the thyroid, but we don't think about manganese, which is key for the pituitary. Um, there chromium, as I mentioned, for the pancreas, but each of these trace minerals is super important for endocrine function, our metabolism,
Hormones,
antioxidant
I mean, right? You think about the
hormones.
endocrine system, I
Right,
mean, hormones are kind of messed up. All right, well, we gotta ask why. And
right.
again, those questions would lead back to here if the endocrine function isn't where we want it to be.
Right. And, because of modern farming, a lot of these aren't in the soil anymore. Our topsoil is very, very depleted. Most places you'll maybe get a foot at the most of topsoil, where it used to be 6 feet. You could go down 6 feet. And that's how these plants get these trace minerals down in the soil, as they need a really um, you know, big topsoil so that the roots can get down and get those trace minerals. And that's another point that we wanted to talk about, was getting these minerals in the organic forms are super important. Organic forms means from a plant, because the plant will take the inorganic form and chelate it. That means it binds it to a protein and it makes it usable for our body. So when we take the inorganic forms of minerals, our body doesn't really know how to use them because they're not chelated. Um, and so it's really important that we get these, chelated forms through plants. So when you're getting, the synthetic versions of a lot of these, they don't work the same way, if at all.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and yeah, it's just unfortunate, like, we used to get a lot more of these from our food. I mean, not that food is not important, of course it is, but we're just not getting the mineral density from our food that we once did, and it's coupled with all these things that really, like, make our body to where it's losing minerals at a rapid rate, much more rapid
Yeah.
than it used to.
Right. I mean, that's a huge one. I mean, I talked about farming. There's a specific, actually, I don't know if it's an herbicide. It might even be a fertilizer, but it significantly depletes magnesium in the soil. And so that's why, of course, most of us need, of course, most of us need most of these minerals because we're not getting them through our food supply. But magnesium is a big one because it's
Mhm.
literally so depleted in the soils
Yeah.
because of modern farming. And so, then we talk about stress, like Kari said, it's physiologically, we are just, I think, because of modern living, right? Blue light, not connected to the earth and grounding, our high stress levels, our constant distraction. We're just burning through these, especially the macro minerals, the sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, so quickly,
Yeah.
that it's very hard to keep up. And what happens is, the body, it becomes harder to heal because we're not eating these nutrient dense foods, right? So it's like you really have to pay attention to the body's cellular function, right? Like, we're worried about a gland. Thyroid, always comes to mind, especially for women. But at the cellular level, are things working? Is the cell membrane working? Is the mitochondria working, the powerhouse of the cell? And other things that we should really pay attention to first, like Krebs cycle, was just how we make ATP. Magnesium is a big piece of that, among other things. Um, so we just don't think about those things. And I'm not sure in mainstream those are tested, which I feel like are foundational because, as we said, minerals are like the spark plugs, but, if you don't have the spark plugs, the system won't run well. And you can eat well, you can,
Mm.
exercise, you can get enough sleep. But if you don't have the raw materials, it's hard for the body to function well.
Yeah. It's just literally trying to do the best it can, and so often, even if you feel fatigued or whether you don't, like, your body needs energy. Maybe you feel like you have enough energy, but it like, your cells need energy to work, and eventually, if they don't have what they need, they're going to, you know, not work the way we want them to, and then that's going to show up in organ function or endocrine function or hormones or different things like that. So, it does go back to all of these things that we think makes up health, right?
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, even I'm thinking like sodium. Like, people are scared away from sodium.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely crucial for the body to have sodium. It helps with, insulin production and glucose metabolism, helps with low stomach acid. Those are probably two of the biggest things that we see very often.
I
Are
mean,
low
my health, and I mean, it wasn't like I was in super bad health, but I felt like I had been working on mainly gut issues for several years, and I felt like I was stalled out with, like, nothing's working until I started adding in more minerals. And I did start with sodium and potassium, and I didn't like salty foods. Like, I didn't salt my food a lot, but then when I started to slowly build my tolerance, it made a huge difference, and I can tell for sure. Like, I was definitely one of those people that was like, "I don't really need more salt, it makes me bloated," you know?
Yeah, right, right.
So if you're there, I mean, start slowly, but you do need it.
Yeah, you do need it, and in balance with potassium and the
Yeah,
other minerals. That's the key. A lot of people are like, "Well, I'm just gonna start salting my foods." Well, you have to balance it with potassium, which is key.
right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you go out and, if you eat out and it's high in sodium and you do feel like you get bloated, you do probably need more potassium, right? And there's lots of other things that go into that, like inflammatory oils and things like that, but
Yeah,
sodium, potassium are key. That's why we tell most people that Relight would be beneficial to them because
right,
that helps replace a little bit of magnesium chloride, sodium, potassium to help get them started, with replacing some of those minerals.
right. But potassium is a big ones. Some of the foods where you can find potassium are things like potatoes, tomatoes, squashes, sweet potatoes, beets, Swiss chard, some citrus fruits. Coconut water is a really big one. We recommend that a lot,
Yeah.
and you'll see that in the adrenal cocktail recipe. Also, if you're making an adrenal cocktail, don't have coconut water. Organic cream of tartar will actually work. Not our first choice, but definitely. And then aloe vera juice too, which is great for gut, stomach healing, lining, gut healing. Um, but potassium is probably, one of the ones that is most depleted that people don't get enough of. And we're getting the refined salt in our processed diets. So
Mhm. Yeah. And then,
just
I mean, you can find the potassium in lots of foods. Like if you were to just semi-focus on it, it's fairly easy to get enough potassium through foods if you're eating mainly whole foods.
yes, yes.
Because your body does need a lot of it, like your adrenals need, the potassium and sodium to kinda keep up with what your body is demanding.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, again, this is just not stuff we think about. And I know a lot of people talk about magnesium. I can't tell you, I wish I had a dime for every time someone said, "Can I just take magnesium for my sleep?"
Right.
Yes, you can if you have enough sodium and potassium. If you don't, it can actually make you feel worse.
Mhm.
So, getting sodium and potassium, in an adrenal cocktail or in Relate first is really your first go-to before adding magnesium. So yeah, I know, Kari, you probably hear it too. Like, I'm just going to add some magnesium for my sleep, which is good, which is a great idea. We definitely need magnesium, especially for glucose metabolism. But again, everything's dependent on everything. And that's the other thing I wanted to mention about diet. I think a lot of times when we're eating a processed diet, our body is trying to recombine or find these nutrients that we need. To keep these processes working. And so it'll pull from our own reserves in our body if we're taking a synthetic nutrients that's not complete, it's not food-based, so it's synthetic, they're not chelated minerals, or they're, synthetic vitamins. So that's why we really focus on the foods, um, especially as a first go-to. Now, sometimes it's not always enough. That's why we use a lot of standard process because they're plant-based. They're really just proprietary blends of food. So they're going to get nutrients and minerals, things we know, that are in there, and sometimes things that we don't know. I remember, I think there was a B vitamin that they were studying or had found or something. Um, and Standard Process basically went back and tested Catalin, which is their multiple, and it was in there.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. So nature is much more
Yeah.
brilliant than we are.
Much.
And so when someone, made the executive decision, say like, in a carrot, that beta carotene was the most important part of that carrot. Well, there's 200 other compounds in the carrots that make that beta carotene work. And so we
Yeah.
just want to be really honoring of God's design, on vitamins and minerals also.
Yeah.
I know we just talked about magnesium. I just wanted to mention some food. So leafy greens are a great source. Raw dairy, avocados, chocolate or cacao powder can be a great source. Legumes, plantains, and then brewer's yeast are all good sources. And that's probably one is probably a little bit harder to get enough through foods. Do you agree with that?
Magnesium?
Yes.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. Just because we burn through it so quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that that's another point that, maybe we've talked about stress burns through your minerals quickly, but like your minerals are constantly being stolen. It's just kind of your body's always using them. If you think about, obviously there's stress, but then there's things like if you've went through multiple pregnancies, like that baby is stealing, for good reason, all of the vitamins and minerals that it needs. Breastfeeding, of course, is very taxing on the body. Exercise is a stress. It's a good stress, but I mean, that's definitely something to consider. Chronic illness, your immune system, like frequent infections, even if your blood sugar swings,
Yeah.
that's taking more from your body to keep it in balance. Sleep, if you get poor sleep chronically, your body's it's not having that time to regenerate, so it's having to work harder to just survive, honestly. So just some of those things. Mold is another one. Gosh, that
Yep.
burns through minerals super quick if you've been exposed to
Yep.
mold or are currently living in mold. So, it's not just one thing. It's not just one, stressful season. It's just all of these stressors are playing a part. And
Yeah.
that's just life, right? It's not like, I don't know. I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer. It's just how it
No.
is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And, that demand, because of all these things that Carrie mentioned, is what, is that increased demand is really kind of what we're talking about and why we're so depleted, right?
Yeah.
Um, so and the things that we see improvements with minerals happen fairly quickly. The nervous system settles, the sleep improves. That's, those are like kind of the subtle things that you'll notice. You might not be as jittery, you might not be as unfocused. Um, just simple things that anxiety. I know for me personally, and I know I've said this before, I tried everything for anxiety, literally, including getting brain scans. And once I started Relight, my anxiety was almost non-existent.
Yeah. Wow. Like, you can't deny that. I
No.
mean,
Literally, I did the alpha stim, for the alpha waves to the brain, like you name it, I did it.
mhm.
And it's just that I was in the chronic fight or flight and I was, flying through my minerals. And once I started replacing those, I definitely saw a difference in my anxiety
Yeah.
significantly. Like I don't even really think about anxiety anymore.
Mhm.
So we can't stress that enough. If you struggle with anxiety, electrolytes or something definitely is a good start, or sleep or energy, or blood sugar instability. Those are big ones that we see a lot
Yeah,
of.
for
The
sure.
other one that I see a lot of is heart palpitations, believe it or not, because the thyroid, controls the heart in Chinese medicine. A lot of
Mhm.
time when people are telling me they have palpitations, I'll add more iodine, or add iodine if they haven't, of course, starting with the other minerals first. And those heart palpitations do
Mhm.
relent. Um, so, we know about iodine obviously for the thyroid, but we don't know how it controls some other glands, right?
Right.
Because it's kind of the thermostat for our whole body. Constipation, Carrie, I know for you, the
Yeah.
thyroid was a big one for you, right?
It really was, and still is. If my thyroid gets off, I can tell,
Yeah.
and my digestion, that's one of the first things I think about, whenever my digestion's off, for sure. It was
So,
crazy.
yeah. So energy, sleep, anxiety, blood sugar, heart palpitations, those are the big ones, muscle cramps. Um, And, we're big on not jumping into, a lot of people want to jump into binders or detoxes or
Yeah.
herbs or antimicrobials. We just don't do those first. Do we do them? Absolutely.
Yeah.
We just don't do them first.
Yeah, and I think it's just a good thing to mention, now that you're hearing these things and you're realizing how much all of these things play a part in your minerals and how much they deplete them, the list that I kind of mentioned, if you know that you're going through a stressful time or if you're having these things, whenever the more you start to concentrate on it, the more that you can just adjust, right? I know if I haven't slept well, I'm going to probably need more nutrition with food, and I'm going to maybe need an extra scoop of Relight or something. I think that that's kind of the goal, is that as things happen in your life, every day's not the same, every season isn't the same, but you're going to need more support during those seasons, and that will greatly help you to recover.
Yeah. Yeah. So some just easy places to start. Eat more protein, especially we love like an ancestral blend beef because of the vitamins and minerals. Don't restrict your salt unless you're medically restricted for kidney or heart issues. And again, that's still probably a balance of, a mineral balance. And then prioritizing, like seafood. I know a lot of people um, don't love shellfish or fish. What I hear also too is I'm allergic to iodine. Or I'm allergic to seafood. No one's allergic to iodine. It's just that you're detoxing some of the other, what are called halogens. So bromine, chloride, fluoride, and you're reacting to that detox when you take in the iodine because the body drops those halogens. So, if that's you, reach out to us. We'd love to work with you. But things like, eggs, fruits and vegetables are your best, organic if possible, because as we mentioned that, conventional farming does deplete. Um, Root vegetables, leafy greens, coconut water, those are all great sources. We use Brazil nuts often for selenium. Because it's just it's a great source of selenium and methionine, and it's easier to get, than sometimes giving people another supplement.
Yeah.
And some of the foods that we mentioned, um, you know, those rotating through your diet, regularly really do make a difference. I'll use pumpkin seeds for zinc quite often. Shellfish is a big one, or just organ meats is another thing, red meat for zinc.
Yeah.
So if you don't eat those, you probably need to supplement with those. Um, and then, I would say, Kari, would you say for most people, supplementing from a whole food start as well as whole foods is a good place to start because we're so depleted?
You mean like taking a multi?
Yeah, taking a whole food based multi.
Yeah.
I know, I love, of course, I'm, definitely, kind of, lean towards standard process because they are whole food.
Yeah.
And I've seen the farm and I know, their farming
Right.
techniques, and they've been farming on this land for 100 years. They use artesian, it's all like, and I've seen the assays of these supplements. So I know that the vitamins and minerals are there. But yes, I would say, a good whole food multiple. I love Catalin. Even liver powder, starting with liver
Yeah.
powder can be a great source. And like I said, just those simple hacks in your diet, like avocados and coconut water and more fruits and vegetables, of course, do make a difference.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why we should be eating a mostly whole food diet, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
just I get that there are times that we don't, but it's funny how whenever I years ago I was trying to, just clean up my diet, and I would just replace packaged foods with other healthier packaged foods, and
Yeah.
I don't know, it just never clicked. Like, oh,
I still do that. I'm like, eh.
yeah, I mean, but it really does make a difference. Like, I mean,
Right.
you feel better, you get all of the nutrients from whole foods. And oftentimes it's cheaper,
Yeah.
truly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but we love minerals. We love this conversation.
Yeah. We could go on and on.
We could go on and on. And we are going to have a follow-up episode to this to just talk about like custom mineral blend that we've been using with some clients and kind of discuss why we started using that and what it is. So that should be a great episode to listen to after this one. But
Yeah.
like Jen,
We're
oh, go
excited
ahead.
for that. No, I
Yeah,
was
for
just gonna say, I'm
sure.
really excited for that. We've seen some great things with Vicon, and we're excited to
Mhm.
talk more about it.
Yeah, like Jenn said, though, if you have questions or if you feel like you could benefit from working with us, please reach out and book a call. It's free, and if we're not a good fit, that's okay. Hopefully, we can help you in some way, shape, or form. We would love to. So join us for that next episode, and we'll keep going on this topic. See you then.
If this episode has served you in any way, drop a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd love it if you'd share any aha moments or takeaways on Instagram and tag us at Cornerstone Integrative Healing.
And if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do so. We want to continue to walk this journey with you. Until next time, friends, know that we are praying for you.